Good afternoon, everybody. Today is May 27, 2026. Today our lecture is a Vipassanā part of Purification about the wisdom part 41. So before starting the lecture, we pay respect to the Buddhas in Namo Tassa in 3 times, please. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Thank you very much for your watching. So today we continue learning about the different kind of the suffering. Is Abhidhamma Samyoga Dukkha. Abhidhamma Samyoga Dukkha, and lovely thing and person meeting together is a kind of the suffering. So the Buddha explained, the Asian teacher also make this kind of stanza here. Te nedang uchati. Te nedang te na etam. Te nedang is a te na plus etam. So te na is that Asian teacher. Etam, the kind of stanza. Etam is referred to the stanza. Uchati. Uchati is a talk. Diswawa apiye dukkha patama hoti chetasi. The dupakama sambuddha matakaye yato ida. Tato dukkha dreyasapi uttu wattu to so mahesina. Dukkho doti vinyo apiyehi sammagamoti. So the stanza is apiyehi, starting from the apiyehi. Translate. Apiyehi is unlovely things and person. So unlovely, all kind of unlovely things and person. This one is one we saw, one we see. When we see the unlovely person or things, Ida. We go to the second line. Ida. Ida is Ida in this war. Ida is in this war. Bataman. Bataman is the first. Bataman first. Chestasi. Chetasi. Cheta is a mind. Cheta is a mind. Si is in the mind. Chetasi in the mind. Dukkha, suffering. Hoti, happen. So the meaning is that when we see the unlovely person or unlovely things, whatever we don't like it, so when we see, when we see those kind of things, first in our mind, suffering first. And then the Dupakama Sambuddha Matakaye here is a very long Pali word. So we have to divide it into three parts. The Dupakama Sambuddha, the Dupakama Sambuddha Atha Kaye. So the Dupakama Sambuddha plus Atha plus Kaye, like this. We have to separate the three what, like this. And then translate Atha first. Atha is later. Later means after in our mind, suffering later. Kaye in our body. Kaye is a body. Kaye in our body, the Dupakama Sambuddha. The Dupakama is referred to the or things, whatever. Refer. Upakama is make the cause, because of the meaning is because of the unlovely person or things. Sambuddha is Sang is no meaning here. Buddha is happening. So the something happening because of the unlovely person or thing. Dukkha, suffering. Yado, because of the reason, Hodi happen. Hodi is in the first line. Hodi again, we have to translate. Yado, because of the reason, Hodi happen. The door, because of that, Dukkha Dvaya Sabi. Dukkha Dvaya, Dukkha is a suffering, Dvaya is here two. Two kind of suffering. That meaning Dukkha Dvaya means two kind of suffering, mental suffering and bodily suffering, physical suffering. Two kind of suffering. So Buddha explained like that. Dukkha Dvaya Sabi. So these two kind of the bodily suffering and mentally suffering, Wattu is a foundation or based, foundation or base. So is that unlovely person or things meeting with us. Mahesina. Mahesina is a Buddha. Here Mahesina is a Buddha. Buddha is a Maha. Mahesina is a Maha plus Asina. Maha is a great. Asina is searching for the liberation. The many suffering again and again in the long samsara. Buddha, find the way out of that kind of suffering. So that's why we call Buddha is Mahesina, Maha-Esina, the person who are great searching for liberation, to be free from suffering. Okay, so that's why we can call the Buddha, another name is Mahesina. Okay. Dukkha Wudo. to call suffering like this. So Buddha suffering like this, Buddha is a talk or explain. Buddho iti like this. Abhiyehi with the unlovely person and things. Samagamo is a meeting together. Vinyo should be no. So the Asian teacher, they make a stanza like this, what the Buddha explained. So the Pali, here English translation here is so the Asian teacher is said the only side means only seeing of an unlovely thing or person, whatever, bring firstly mental suffering. And then suffering of the body as well. So through touching them, that means through touching it, meaning is the unlovely person or thing can then ensue. And we therefore may recognize in some meeting unlovely thing or person give rise to either kind of pain. That's why the Buddha decided pain its name should be. So the English translation like this. So the meaning is when we see a lovely person or thing, first we have a mental suffering. After that, we have the bodily suffering or physical suffering as well. So these two kind of suffering is arising within us because of the meeting with the unlovely person or things. So that's why Buddha called those kind of suffering is apiyehi sambayogo to call. We should understand like this. Ayam apiyehi sambayoge vinetayo. So again, this explanation is apiyehi sambayoge, association with the unlovely person or things, vinetayo, or the exposition. Okay, and then we go to the next one. The next one is piya vibhyogo. Piya is a lovely opposite of the apiya. Sambhyogo, vibhyogo is here. Vibhyogo is the opposite of the sambhyogo, meeting. So separation. So that's why piya vibhyogo meaning is a separation from the lovely person or things. It's another kind of suffering what the Buddha explained. So that's why here Pali explaining piya vibhyogo nama. Piya vibhyogo nama. Piya vibhyoga meaning is manapehi. Manabehi is a very agreeable or very enjoyable. Saddha Sankharehi. Saddha is a living being. Sankhara is the other different kind of non-living being. Sankhara is here. Living being and non-living being, any kind of person or things. Yeah? We need Vinabhava. Vinabhava is a part. Separate. Vinabhava is part. Part away. Separation. This we call here piya vibhyogo. So Piya Vipyoga is like this, very enjoyable passing of things. When we separate them, so there is we call Pali is a Piya Vipyoga. Okay, so is referred to the Piya Vipyoga, separation from the lovely personal things is Etha Vatu Viyoga Lakhano. Lakhana is a characteristic. The characteristic of Piya Vipyoga is here Etha Vatu. Etha is enjoyable, Etha is desirable. Etha Vatu is Vatu here meaning is things or person, yeah, kind of object. So the desirable object meaning the desirable thing or desirable person. Vipyoga is a separation or dissociation. Opposite of the association, dissociation or separation. That kind of characteristic. And then Sokupadana Raso. Sokupadana. Rasa is a function. The function of the Piya Vipyoga is the Sokupadana, Soka Upadana. Soka is sorrow, Upadana is arising, make arising. So Piya Vipyoga's function is to make arising sorrow. This is a function of the Piya Vipyoga. Piya Vipyoga is make that kind of soka, generate the soka sorrow, the meaning. And then Vipassanā Pachupatthano. Vipassanā, Vipassanā is we learned in previous chapter, previous lecture. Pachupatthana is a manifestation. So, but the manifestation of Piya Vipyoga is Vipassanā. Vipassanā means there are 5 kinds of Vipassanā, and the yoga, roga Vipassanā, the Sila Vipassanā, Daithi Vipassanā. There are 5 kinds. So the Vipassanā is a kind of lost of the wealth, loss of the relative, loss of the happy stage, loss of the morality, loss of the wrong view, the right view. So that's kind of the 5 kind of the lost is here Vipassanā. So Vipassanā is when the meditator look the Piya Vipyoga is kind of Vipassanā, kind of lost. Because of separation from the lovely personal thing, so some person lost their properties. That person separation from the property, isn't it? Some person lost or the relatives, so that is a separation from the relative. Relative is a lovely person, so the Piya Vipyoga, isn't it? So that's why. So Piya Vipyoga, the meditator watching the Piya Vipyoga is a kind of Vipassanā, kind of lost. So 5 kind of loss when we faced with the 5 kind of laws, that person separation from the lovely personal thing. So that's why Piya Vipyoga is a Vyasana manifestation as the law. And then Dukkopana. Dukkopana. Dukkha. Soka dukkha sa. Uttudo. Soka dukkha sa. Soka dukkha is the sorrow, the suffering of sorrow. The suffering of sorrow, soka dukkha sa. Uttudo is the base. Uttudo, because of the base of the sorrow, suffering of sorrow, that's why Piya Vipyoga is a kind of dukkha, suffering, what the Buddha explained. So separation from the lovely person or thing meaning is that generate or produce the sorrow, soka. So that's why soka is kind of the dukkha. So that's why Piya Vipyoga also dukkha, what the Buddha explained. The meaning. Okay, so the Pali English translation separation from the lovely person or thing is to be parted from the agreeable beings or formation in inanimate things. Its characteristic is a dissociation or separation from the desirable object. Its function is to arouse the sorrow. It is manifested as a loss. It is a suffering because it is a basis for the suffering of sorrow. That's why Buddha put another kind of suffering is Piya Vipyoga. Okay, and then we go to the stanza here. Denedam Ochati. Denedam Dena Edam. Dena is the Asian teacher. Edam, the kind of stanza. Ochati talk. Nyadi Dhanadi we yoga. Nyati Dhanadi. Nyati Dhanadi we yoga. Sokkasara Samapita Vitochandi. Palayato Tato Yang Tukoti Mato Piya Vipyogoti. The stanza is like this. So the first line, Nyadi. Nyadi is related. Dhana is wealth or properties. The person who occupy the properties is dhana in Pali. Adi is etc. etc. So Viyoga is kind of Vyasana, kind of lost. So Nyadi Viyoga, Dhana Viyoga is very similar. Nyadi Vyasana, Dhana Vyasana, yeah. And then the Roga Vyasana, Roga Vyasana, Sila Vyasana, and Deity Vyasana, etc. So the Adi meaning is like this. Okay, so when we face with these 5 kind of laws, Soka, Sara, Samapita. Soka is sorrow. Sara is a kind of sorrow is a Buddha make a simile. Sorrow is a kind of the dark. Sara, arrow, dart or arrow. Yeah, Samabita is penetrated. Penetrated by the arrow. Soka is like an arrow. In our mind, sorrow is kind of the depression, isn't it? According to the Abhidhamma, is because of dosa, anger. So that's why Buchanan make a simile. Soka is like an arrow penetrated in our mind. Widow Chandi. Widow Chandi is a leader. Bala. Bala is evil or fool. Evil or fool. Bala. Yado, because of that. Yado, because of that. Widow Chandi. Yeah, we translate like this. Yado, because of that. Widow Chandi is too much suffering. Widow Chandi is too much painful. Too much painful. Widow Chandi. The door, because of that, yang is this piya vipiyogo, to kodi, dukkha like this, suffering like this. Mato or yang is here together with yang, piya vipiyogo. Okay? Yang piya vipiyogo, this separation from lovely personal thing, to kodi, dukkha, suffering like this, Mato should be known. The stanza is like this. So the stanza in English translation is because of this Asian teacher is said like this: the dart or the sorrow on the heart. Heart means here in the mind of the fool, evil person who from their wealth lost or the relative lost, etc., which rightly should be ground enough for counting the love lost as a suffering. So yang biawibyoge vinichayo. Yang, this explanation is biawibyoge, separation from the lovely personal things. Vinichayo, exposition. So this is an exposition of the separation from the lovely personal things. So apiya vipiyoga. See, another kind of suffering, dukkha. And then we go to the next one is ichita labo. Ichita. Ichita labo. Ichita alaba. Ichita is what we want. Alaba is not get. So that's why ichita laba translate not to get what one person wants. Not to get what one person wants here. Ichita lava. Ichita alava. Alava is a not get. Ichita is what we want, what the one person wants. So this is another kind of suffering, what the Buddha explained. So that's why here the Pali explaining Yang Vichana Labati Ita. Yambaichana labadi di ita. Yambaichana labadi in that Pali. So what the Buddha explained the 12 kind of dukkha suffering is Jadipi dukkha, Jarapi dukkha, Maranambi dukkha, Abhi Samyoga dukkha, Bhi Vibhyoga dukkha, Yambaichana labadi, Dambi dukkha, isn't it? So in the Pali, ita means refer to the Pali, what the Buddha explained 12 kind of suffering. Here more detail explaining Ahovata Maya. Maya is we are Jadi Dhamma. Jadi Dhamma is Jadi is a bone. Dhamma here is nature, the nature of bone. Mayan Jadi Dhamma is we are the nature of the bone, na asama. Na is together with the asama. Na asamati. Na asama. Iti adisu. Na asama is not happen. Not happen the bone, nature of bone. If we are not happen the nature of bone, that means we are not reborn. It's good. Ahovada. Ahovada means it's really, really good. If we are not reborn, the nature of reborn, if happen, it's good. It's really, really good. Idi adisu, idi like this, adisu is etc. etc. Lava is a cat, not to get. Alabaniya, what two is the things. So the meaning is, we are all the person who are born, that person not destroying the kilesa, manda defilement, that person reborn again in the future. Definitely. This one is it's not possible to get it. Just we watch, we wish, I don't want to reborn, but definitely we were reborn. So that kind of thing is here. Alabaneya watu. Watu is the object. Alabaneya is a cannot get. It's not possible to get it. Ichawa. Ichawa is just we want, just which, just wanting. Ichawa. Yambecha nalabadi, what the Buddha said. Yambecha nalabadi, what the Buddha said like this. So not to reborn, not to old age, not to die. So those things are everybody want. I don't want to be old. I don't want to be, die. Everybody want, but those natural thing is not possible according to the person which. So Yampe Chan, Nalabadi is cannot get it. That kind of which is cannot get it. So Dambi Dukan. Dambi, that kind of which also Dambi means refer to the kind of which Dukandi. Dukha suffering like this, Buddha talk. So this one is very, common mention for everybody, all living being. We are saying we wish, but those things is not possible to. So the meaning is not to get what we want. Ichita lavo. Ichita lavo is the meaning. Okay. Sa is referred to the Ichita lavo. Sa, that Ichita lava. Just we wish, but it's not possible to get it. That kind of thing is alabaniya watu ichana lakana. Lakana is a characteristic. So the characteristic of the Ichidalava is alabaniya watu. It's not possible to get it. Alabaniya watu, the watu is object. Ichana is just watch, just which, just we which, but it's not possible to get. Nobody free from the aging and that, that kind of thing is not possible to get it, isn't it? So that those things are we call here alavaniya watu. Not to OH, not to that, not to reborn again. For general person, it's not possible to get it. Just which what they want. So that kind of characteristic, and then Vipassanā rasa. Vipassanā rasa. Rasa is a function. The function of the Ichidalava here is Vipassanā. Vipassanā is the thing not to get what we want. Vipassanā is searching. Everybody's searching. Everybody's searching not to OH, not to die, not to reborn again in the samsara. Everybody's searching like this. But, cannot get. Cannot get those kind of things to kind of nature. So that's why here the function of the Ichidalava is searching. Vipassanā is searching for those things not to get what we want. Desang is referred to those impossible thing to get. Apati Pachupatana. Apati is not. Pati is a reach. Cannot reach. Vipassanā is a manifestation for the meditator mind. One watching those Ichidalava, what not to get what we want. That kind of thing is apathy. Apathy is cannot reach. So dukkha bana, dukkha vattudo. So why Buddha say the yambecha nalabati dami dukkha? That kind of dukkha is why? Because of dukkha vattudo. Because of the foundation of the suffering. Dukkha vattu. Because of foundation of the suffering, that's why Ichidalava is a kind of the dukkha. It's a common suffering for everybody who, who believe any kind of things, any different religion, whatever, whoever. Everybody saying that kind of suffering we have, that is Ichidalava. We want, but we cannot get it. That kind of object here, Ichidalava. So the Pali English translation, Ichidalava is not to get what we want, what one person want. So the want is said of some unobtainable object. It's obtainable, unobtainable meaning is it's not possible to get it. That kind of object is Buddha mentioned in such kind of passages, or that we are not subject to birth, we are not subject to old age, we are not subject to death, etc., etc. So it's a core suffering since one does not get what is wanted. Just one, that just which, but it's not possible to get it. So its characteristic is wanting of an unobtainable object. Unobtainable meaning it's not possible to get that kind of object. And its function is to seek that kind of unobtainable object. And it is manifested as disappointment. Disappointment is I don't know why they translate disappointment. Disappointment, not just disappointment, just cannot reach the kind of what that person want. And it is suffering, what the Buddha used, because it is the basis or foundation for suffering. That's why the Ichidalava is one kind of suffering. Okay? And stanza here, Dene San Hojadi, Dena Edan, Dena is the Asian teacher, Edan, that kind of stanza, Hojadi talk, Dandan, Pataya Mananang, Dasa Alabado, Yang Vigada Mayang Dukhan, Satanang Ida Jayadi, Alabaniya Uttuna Patthana Dasa Karana Yasama Dasama Jino Dukha Ichidalabang Mau Paravi. So Dandan Patthama Manasa Dasa or Ida. We translate first Ida, second line. Ida Jayadi. Ida is in this human war, or ida means in this truth or suffering explanation. Tandang means refer to that object. Tandang is a refer to that object. Pattaya mana is a which. The person which Bhattyamanana Sattana. Oh, Sattana is here. So Bhattyamanana Sattana. The Satta is a living being. A living being who watch the witching, who wants something. Dasa, that object. Dasa is that object. Alabado is a not cat. Is a not. Lava is a cat. Alabado, because of not cat. Wikadamaya. Wikada is a very how to translate. Wikada is a very, very tired in the mind. So Maya is a making very tired in the mind. Wikada Maya. Yan Dukkha. Yan is a death. Dukkha is a suffering. Jayati is a rising or born. Jayati. Okay, Alabaniya Watuna, that line, Alabaniya Watuna. It's not possible to get that kind of object. Patana is wanting, is Dasa. For Dasa is referred to the bodily suffering and mental suffering, two kind of suffering. Dasa, that bodily suffering and mental suffering. Karana is a cause. Yasama, because of that, Hoti happened. Dasama, that's why Jino is a Buddha. Jina is a Buddha. Jino, the Buddha, Ichidalabang Abari. Ichidalabang is Ichida Alava. Ichida is a wanting, not get. Alava is not get. Wanting what? Not get. Dukkha, suffering, like this. Abhyavi is a talk. Buddha talk. Abhyavi. Abhravi. Abhraviti. Abhravi iti. Iti like this. Jino, Buddha. Abhravi is a talk. Okay, so that stanza in the translation is one beings here expect to get something they build their hope upon. So which fail them, they are woebegone with disappointments, numbing pain. Thereof the cause of is hope they wet to something they cannot obtain. So not to get one is pain, what the Buddha talk like this. So the meaning is the thing what we cannot get, what we want. This is a more suffering ourselves in our body and mind. So that's why Buddha say that kind of thing is also suffering. Yambechan na labati dambi dukkha. This is a number 12 kind of suffering. Ayan ichita labi we nature. Ayan this explanation is ichita labi. Ichita is we want but we cannot get it. That kind of things. We nature or exposition. This is exposition not to get what the person wants. Yambechan nalabati dambi dukkha. Okay, and then finally the Buddha is the briefly explaining is Panchuparana Khanda Dukkha, isn't it? So that's why here Panchuparana Khanda explaining. Pancha Uparana Khanda. Panchu Paranakhanda. Pancha plus Uparanakhanda. Pancha is a 5. Uparanakhanda is a clinging. Uparana is a clinging. Khanda is a aggregate. So 5 aggregate as an object of the clinging. Uparana. 4 kind of Uparana. Kama Uparana. Detu Uparana. Silabadu Uparana. Attawadu Uparana. We learn in Abhidhamma. There are 4 kind of Uparana. So with these 4 kind of Uparana, clinging 5 aggregate is clinging with these 4 Uparana. We call that Khanda is a Panchuparana Khanda. Pancha Uparana Khanda. Uparana Khanda. Okay. So here more explaining about the 5 aggregate as object of clinging. Sankhetena. Sankhetena is in briefly. Sankhetena in briefly. Panchuparana Khanda. 5 aggregate as object of clinging. Dukkha. Suffering. It is like this. It is what the Buddha mentioned. Sankhetena Panchuparana Khanda Dukkha. Now today, just a briefly what we call dukkha is 5 kind of upadana khanda is dukkha. So the view of Buddha is 5 upadana khanda is briefly we call dukkha. So it in that Pali what the Buddha mentioned, Chapti Jati Pabhutikang Dukhan Yan Wutta Midatadina Awotam Yancha Tam Sabang Winat Eti Nawecheti Yasama Dasama Upada Nakhanda Sankhe Pato Ime Dukhadi Uda Dukhanda Desakena Mahesina. This is also stanza. So we translate at the end of the first line, Tadina. So Tadina is referred to the Buddha. Tadi. Tadi meaning is we learn in the Blessing Sutta, Mangala Sutta. Mingla Sutta Dadi. Dadi meaning is Buddha mind is never shaking with 8 kind of lokadharma. Lava, alava, yassa, ayassa, nina, pasansa, sukha, dukkha. These four are 8, no 4. 4 are good, 4 are not good, In the war, sometimes we met with the good 4 good lokadharma. Sometimes we met with 4 not good lokadharma, isn't it? Anyway, so 8 lokadharma, when the Buddha met, Buddha mind never shaking. So that's why we call Buddha is Dadina, Dadi. Dadi meaning is that meaning, okay? Dadi meaning is never ever shaking the mind or the Buddha when meeting with 8 kind of lokadharma. Arhat also, their mind is never shaking with the Logadharma. So Buddha also, Dadi. Arhat also we can call Dadi as well. But here is a Buddha. Okay, so Dadina, the Buddha, never shaking his mind with the 8 kind of Logadharma. Wait, Hotan Mida is a Hotan Ida. Okay, Hotan plus Ida. So Ida is in this dukkha, the truth of suffering explanation. Ida means in this truth of suffering explanation, jadi pabudika. Jadi is born. Jadi be dukkha. Pabudi is a studying. Pabudika is a studying. Studying the jadi path. Yan dukkha. Yan is together with the dukkha. Yan dukkha, the kind of suffering. Yan dukkha, the kind of suffering. Hold down. Buddha talk. Yancha. Yancha is the suffering. Yan is suffering. Refer to the suffering. Yancha, the kind of suffering. Inyata. Out. Nyata is not here, but we had to, make the Pali is we need to put it in the different the sutta. Auda is not Uda is a talk. Auda is a not talk. Dan Saban that all. Dan is a that. Saban is all. Dan Saban that all kind of suffering. It is referred to the Upadana Khanda, 5 aggregate as object of clinging. It is those of 5 Upadana Khanda, Vina, without those 5 Upadana Khanda, Yasama, because of that. Now Vijati. Now Vijati is a nice and not. Vijati is there is not. There is not. So the meaning is all kind of suffering without upadana khanda, all kind of suffering, there is not all kind of suffering. So all kind of suffering arising because five aggregate, that meaning. So five aggregate is connect with the all kind of suffering in the world, that meaning. Buddha want to explain the Yambechana Sankhedina Penchuparana Khana Dukkha. So Buddha explained 12 kind of suffering. These 12 kind of suffering is connect with the five aggregate. Not the other thing. Connect with not the other thing. Just connect with the five aggregate. Because of material aggregate, because of the feeling aggregate, because of the perception aggregate, because of the manda formation aggregate, because of the consciousness aggregate, isn't it? So in our daily life, because of those five aggregate, we have some kind of suffering meeting with the connect with that five aggregate. So that's why. That's a man, because of that reason. That's a man, because of that reason. Dukkhan desakena. Okay, dukkhan desakena is the last line. Dukkha divuda, dukkhanda desakena. Dukkhanda is a dukkha anda. Anda is and. Dukkha is suffering. The and not suffering. Dukkhanda is a dukkha anda. So and not suffering. Desakena is desaka is the show the way. The Buddha. The Buddha is a show us the way how to make end of the suffering, isn't it? So that's why we call Buddha as a Dukkhanda Desakena. Mahesina, great searching. Buddha. Buddha is a great searching for the end of the suffering. Buddha himself searching end of the suffering. And then Buddha also show us how to get the end of the suffering the way Buddha show us. That's why Dukkhanda Desakena Mahesina, the great searching person, the Buddha, Dukkhadi, suffering like this, Buddha talk. Oh, here, Sinkebado, sorry. Sinkebado is briefly, Sinkeba. Sinkebado briefly, Ime is the Upadana Khanda. Ime, those Upadana Khanda is five aggregates as an object clinging. Dukkhadi, dukkha like this, Buddha talk. Because of our five aggregate is related with all kind of suffering. That's why, in briefly, Pinchuparana Khanda Dukkha, Sankhedina, Pinchuparana Khanda Dukkha, what the Buddhas explain. Okay, so the Pali English translation here is in the short, in the briefly, the five aggregate as an object of the clinging. Now the birth, aging, etc., etc. Each thing told in describing the various kind of suffering, and those not mentioned could not be those no more aggregate for clinging. So wherefore those aggregate for clinging are taken in totality in pain, as a suffering by the Buddha, the Dhamma's king. Dhamma king means here they translate Dukkanda Disakit Dhamma king. Not that Tara meaning is not Dhamma king. Dukkanda Disakina is Dukkanda is another suffering. Disaka is show the other person the way, show the way how to get the end of the suffering. So or here, who taught the end of the suffering? The Dhamma king is a Buddha who taught the end of the suffering. Yeah. Okay. And then explain more detail about that here. Pali continuously. Tatahi. He more detail explaining. He is a more detail explaining. And Tata is that Buddha talking. Pawako. Pawaka is fire. Pawaka is fire. Tejo. Tejo, Pawako. So fire is many different names in Pali. Here Pawaka is Tejo, fire. So Pawako, fire is Indana Miwa, Indana Iwa. Okay? Indana Iwa. Iwa is like. Indana is what we say. Indana is kind of the wick or the candle wick. In the candlelight, the wick is all the time the fire burning, isn't it? Wick is shorter and shorter, more, burn out. So like this, Buddha gave the example. Similarly. Okay. So Indian Iwa, like a wick of the candlelight. And then Lakhamiwa, Paharanani. Paharana is weapons. Paharana is a weapons. Paharanani, many weapons. Lakhang miwa, lakhang iwa. Lakha is what target. Like a target. So many example here, Buddha is give there many example. The fire, our God, the fire, the fire is all the time burning the wick of the candlelight like this. Another one is weapons that hitting the target like this. And then korubang wiya damsa makasa deyo. Dansa. Makasa, Aryo, etc. etc. So dansa is a kind of the insect. Makasa is a mosquito. Makasa is a mosquito. Dansa is like a fly, but the fly is eating the blood from the animal. Little bit bigger than the fly. The fly is in Southeast Asia country. I think a lot. So that animal, that insect is we call dansa. Dansa, makasa is a mosquito, ario is etc. etc. Goruban, Wiya. Wiya is a like. Goruba is a go is a cow. Ruba is a crew, the crew of the cow. And then Kitamiwa Layaka. Layaka is the walker, the reap, reap the plant walker. Kitamiwa is Kitan Iwa, like Kita is a field. And then Kamanwiya, Kama Gadaka. Kama is the village. Gadaka is a destroyer. So village destroyer, the Kamanwiya. Kamanwiya is like the village. Destroy like this. So the many example here. Number one example is the fire destroying the wick or the candlelight, the weapon destroying the target, and then the kind of flying and mosquito destroying the group of the car, and then the walker destroying the fee, and then village destroyer destroying the village, like this. Buddha gave many examples. Upadana Khanda Panchaka Mewa. Jadadeyo. Jadi Aryo. Jadi Aryo, Jadi, etc. etc. Jadi means a bad. So Buddha explained Jadi, Jara, OH, isn't it? Aryo means many kind, 12 kind of suffering. Jadi, Jara, Marana, Soka, Videwa, Dukkha, Domanassa, Upayasa, Api, Samyoga, Pi, Vipyoga, etc. Is many kind, 12 kind. So Jadi is a studying, but is a studying, etc. etc. Yeah. Upadana Khanda Panchaka Mewa. Clinging the aggregate 5 group. It was only Nana Pakari, various kind. Nana is a various. Pakara is a kind. Various kind. Vipassanā. Vipassanā is destroyed. Tina Lata Dini Viya. Bhumiya. Tina Lata Dini. Tina is the grass. Tina. Lata is kripa. We are is like grass and cripple, Bhumiyan, and Bhumi is a ground. Bhumiyan in the ground, on the ground. And then Popa, Pala, Panlawani, Viya, Rokesu. Popa is a flower, Popa. Popa, Pala is a fruit. Panlawa. Panlawa is a sprout. So flower, fruit, and sprout, we are is like this. Okay, so in the tree, Nibadandi happen like this. Upadana Khandi Suyewa in the five aggregate clinging as object of the clinging only Nibadandi happen. So that meaning all kind of flower, all kind of fruit, all kind of sprout is coming out from the tree like this. All kind of suffering coming out from the five aggregate as an object of clinging. The Buddha gave the simile like this to understand why Buddha say Sankhedena Pinchuparana Khanda Dukkha. So some person they don't understand why. Five aggregate is why Buddha call suffering. Because we have only five aggregate. Our life is a five aggregate. So why Buddha that five aggregate is a suffering? Some person they don't understand. So that's why Buddha gave the very easy example. In the tree, all flower, all fruit, all sprout is coming out from the flower, from the tree. So tree is like this. Very similarly, our five aggregate clinging as object of clinging, Pinchuparana Khanda is coming out all kind of suffering. Chadibi dukkha, Charabi dukkha, Maranabi dukkha, 12 kind of dukkha suffering is coming out from five aggregate, isn't it? So that's why Buddha mentioned it that way. So the Pali English translation is for the bad, etc., thus oppress country of the aggregate, five kind of aggregate as object clinging, as fire does a fuel burning continuously, and then as the shooting does the target like this, and then as get flying and flying, mosquito and flying, etc., to the calm's body, and then the ripple to a fee, village riddle to destroy the village, and then they are generated in the aggregate as a weed, as a cripple, etc., are on the ground as a flower, fruits, and sprout on the tree. Okay, so like this, that's why the nature of our five aggregate is like this. That's why Buddha say Sankhedena Panchuparana Khanda Dukkha. Okay, and then Upadana Khanda Ninja. Adi dukkha jati. Upadana khanda nan cha. Cha continuously explaining. Cha is continuously explaining. Upadana khanda nan 5 aggregate as object clinging. Adi in the beginning dukkha. Beginning suffering. Adi dukkha is the beginning suffering is jati bhat. The bhat is the beginning suffering. Mijji dukkha jara. Oh. Jara OH. Jara OH is mijji dukkha. Mijji is the middle. Dukkha is suffering. Middle suffering. Purifasana dukkha marana. Oh. Marana, that is Purifasana dukkha. Purifasana is end. Unsuffering. Maranantika dukkha bhikkadena. Maranantika is a marana antika end. Antika is not close, very close to death. Maranantika. Dukkha is a suffering. Dukkha bhikkada. Bhikkadena. Bhikkada is make oppressed. Paridashana dukkha. Soko. Oh. Paridashana is banning. Paridashana. Banning suffering is soko, sorrow. So soka, sorrow is inside banning, isn't it? Very close to the death. The more the person, the more, attachment, the more, the rich person, the more soka, more sorrow they have. The meaning. Paridahana dukkha, inside banning. That kind of suffering is they suffer a lot. Okay, and then Tadasahana is very close to death and cannot patient because of that. Lalapana dukkha. Lalapana is make a sound. Lalapana. Make a various kind of sound. Lalapana. Dukkha, the kind of suffering is here we call pariveda. Parideva, sorry. Parideva. Parideva is kind of make a various kind of sound, that kind of suffering. Parideva. Despair. And then the door after that, dhatu khobana. Dhatu khoba, sorry. Dhatu khoba. Sankhata. Anitha. Very long. Podaba. Samayoga door. Dhatu is element, isn't it? Dhatu is element. So element is not balanced at the time. We have a kind of disease. Dhatu Kobana is the elements unbalance, making, Sankhada is we call Anita. Undesirable Potaba is the tangible Potaba. Potaba is tangible. Samayoga do is we are meeting together with that kind of situation because the element is unbalanced, and then we call undesirable touch the tangible object meeting together at the time. Kayasa, the body. Abhidhamma dukkha. Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma is a very painful suffering. Abhidhamma dukkha. Bodily painful suffering is here Buddha call dukkha. Soka, Videwa, dukkha, and dominasa. So Tena is the bodily suffering. Tena with the bodily suffering, Bhadiya Manana. Bhadiya Manana is a oppressing Putujanana. Putujana is a general person. Putujana. Tata in that the bodily suffering, Pati Gupati Do. Patiga Upatito. Patiga is anger, isn't it? We learn Abhidhamma is, Dominasa Dosamula Chitta. Dominasa Sagadan, Patiga Sambayodam, Asinkarikam. So Patiga is another name of the dosa in Pali. So Patiga Upatido is a Patiga Upatido. Patiga is anger, Upati is arising. Arising anger. Because of arising anger at the time. So Putujana is cannot practice the Dharma. So at the time, Putujana is cannot patient the bodily suffering at the time. Because of bodily suffering, Chedo Bharana Dukkha, another suffering coming out. Chedo Bharana Dukkha. Cheda is a mind, Mandal. Mandal suffering. Chedo Bandhana Dukkha. Chedo Bharana Dukkha is mentally suffering is here we call dominasa. Dukkha and dominasa is that's why we translate dukkha as bodily suffering. Dominasa is a mental suffering. That's why we translate the Buddha 12 kind of suffering teaching. Dukkha, dominasa. So dukkha is the bodily suffering, dominasa is a mental suffering. Chidobharana dukkha. Okay? And then Sokadi Hodiya. Sokadi Hodiya. Sokadi Buddhiya. Sokadi Hodiya is Soka is sorrow, Adi is etc. etc. Hodi is increase. More and more. More and more Soka, etc. etc. More and more. Janita Visadana. Janita is a generate or produce. Visadana. Visada is tiredness. Visada. Tiredness. Generate the tiredness. A note to Nana Dukkha. Anotu nana dukkha. Anotu nana is make a how to translate. You know, the person who are a lot of suffering, make a song. Yeah, make a song. That kind here Bali, Anotu nana dukkha. Some, you know, song making, that kind of suffering is here upayasa or upayasa dukkha. And then manoratha vigada pattanam. Mano is a mind. Vigada is the vigada is a destroying the mind. Or patta is a reaching. So the meaning is mentally, you know, the suffering, that kind of thing. Icha vigada dukkha. Icha is a witch. Vigada is destroying which the person something want, but that which destroyed by some situation. So icha vigada dukkha. Icha vigada is the person who want but not get, cannot get. That kind of suffering is ichita labodi. Ichita laba. Ichita wishing but wanting but cannot get. That kind of. Iti ewan like this, nana pakara do. Nana pakara do is a various kind. Nana pakara do. Upaparikya mana. Upaparikya mana is investigate by the wisdom. When we investigate by the wisdom, Upadanakhandawa, the aggregate as an object of clinging only dukkha, suffering. It is like this. We have to understand. Okay, so the Pali English translation here is the aggregate of clinging have a bad as their initial suffering, the beginning of the suffering. The aging is their middle suffering, and the death is their final suffering. So the suffering due to burning in one who is bitten of the pain that threaten death is sorrow. We call sorrow soka. So it's that suffering consisting in the crying out by one who is unable to bear that kind of suffering is limitation. Prideva. Make a sound. Next, the suffering consisting in infliction of the body due to contact of the undesirable tangible object in the body. So in other words, the disturbance of the element is a pain. Dukkha. The suffering of present in the mind through the resistance to that in the ordinary people, Putujana, oppressed by that. So this is what we call grief, upayasa. So the suffering consisting in the brooding in those dejected by the accumulation of sorrow, etc., is a despair. Upayasa. So the suffering consisting in the frustration of the ones in those whose hope disappointment is not to get what one person wants. So when these various aspects are examination with the wisdom, so the aggregate of as an object clinging suffering, what the Buddha explained. That's why. So that's why we have to understand like this. Okay. And then the continually explaining Pali mo yadedang ekamekam dasitoha. Ekamekam is a eka. Ekamekam is a Pali is a 2-time eka. Ekamekam is eka. So one. Yadedang is a young edang. Young is a that. Young edang. Edang also that. Young edang, yadedang, young edang, that suffering. That meaning is suffering. Yadedang, that suffering, dasitwa, after showing the Buddha after showing us Ochamana. Ochamana is a talk. Nekebi, many. Not ike. Not ike meaning is many. With the many. Kapehi. Kapehi is Ian. Many Ian. Nekebi kapehi. With the many Ian. Ase sato is completely nothing left. Hold down to talk. The Buddha talk. Buddha mention. Buddha to mention all kind of suffering. Nasaka unable. So that meaning is suffering is a lot, not only 12 kind. Yeah, in our life, in our round of rebirth, samsara, there are so many different kind of suffering. So that's why Buddha cannot explain, even though many eon cannot completely explain all kind of suffering. It's not possible. Nasaka is unable. Buddha unable to explain. Even though many eon explaining only the kind of suffering, is not possible. So the meaning is so many kind. Dasama, because of that reason, Dasama, because of that reason, seven be all and can that's Eka is a one. Jala is water. Bindu is the yeah, kind of drop. Yeah, one drop of water. You know all water in the ocean is same, isn't it? You can easily know it like this. So that means here, even though just one drop of the water, sakala all, sakala means all, Sakala samude samuda jala rasa. Sakala is all, samuda is the ocean, jala is water, rasa is a taste. Taste of the all ocean water. We are like this. Huh? Buddha explaining that's why Sankhedena Pinchupana Khanda Dukkha. Buddha cannot mention all kind of dukkha. That's why Buddha briefly, just you taste one drop of water, you taste all this salty water, all saying in all ocean water is like this. Huh? Like this, Buddha explaining. So here give the example. Huh? We are like this. Yesu Kesuchi. Yesu Kesuchi means in all kind of Panchasu 5, Upadana Khandesu, the aggregate as an object of clinging, Sankhipitwa. Sankhipitwa is summarized briefly. Dasedong to show. Dasai. Dasedong is to show. Sankhedena Pinchuparanet Khanda Dukkadi. Sankhedena and briefly Pinchuparanet Khanda Dukkha. 5 aggregate as a object of clinging is suffering. It is like this. Bhagawa Buddha Awacha ti. Awacha iti. Awacha is a talk or explain. It is like this. You have to understand. And this explanation is Upadana Khandesu and the 5 aggregate as object clinging nature explanation. And this explanation is our first Dukkha Nidese, detailed explanation about the suffering, Nayo, the way or the method. We have to understand first. Okay, so the Pali English translation is just impossible. It is impossible to explain all kind of suffering without reminder, without nothing left, showing each kind of suffering. Even by going for many years, only discuss about that, the Buddha cannot complete explaining. So the Buddha said in the short Sankhedena, Panchuparana Khanda Dukkha, 5 aggregate as an object clinging or suffering. In order to show in the shortcut way how all that suffering is present in any kind of 5 aggregate as an object clinging, in the same way that the taste of water in the ocean, the drop of water, taste is salty, so you can know the whole ocean water is same. So to be found in a single drop of this water is enough. Like this. So this is that's why the Buddha say Panchuparana Khanda Dukkha. Sankhedena Panchuparana Khanda Dukkha. So this is an exposition of the aggregate as an object clinging. So this firstly is a method for the description of the truth of the suffering. Dukkha Satya explanation right now finished. So I think today we stop here because of Dukkha Satya, the first noble truth, the truth of suffering right now, finish explaining. Finish. So I would like to stop here today. Now next week we will go to the second noble truth, the origin of the cause of suffering. We will learn. Okay? Okay, so before start the lecture, we wish our Buddha teaching lasts longer and longer in the universe. The more Buddha teaching lasts, the more we can understand the truth, the nature of the truth. So the more we understand the truth of nature, the more we can get the wisdom from that. So that's why we wish our Buddha Sasana chanted 2 and 3 times, please. Buddha Sasanam Chirandidatu Buddha Sasanam Chirandidatu Buddha Sasanam Chirandidatu Sadhu 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 Idame punya asavakayang hodu Idame punya nibbanasa pachayo hotu. Idame punya megapala nyanasa pachayo hotu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much for watching. See you next week. Have a good day. Bye-bye.